If you don't like living with family, you can leave. That's what my mother screamed across the living room. Full volume, full venom, like I was a stranger who'd overstayed her welcome. Like I hadn't paid every single bill in that house for almost a year. Like I was the one freeloading. My name is Samantha. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever been used so quietly, so politely that by the time you noticed it was too late to scream? Because that's exactly what happened to me. And the way it ended? Let's just say, the locks didn't change, but the names on the deed did. Let me paint the picture. It was a Thursday. I had just gotten off a 10-hour shift. My car was running low on gas. My feet were blistered from standing. And all I wanted was to sit in my office, the one I designed, with a glass desk and floating bookshelves. But I couldn't, because that room now belonged to my brother and his two toddlers. The walls were covered in crayon. The carpet had apple juice soaked into its fibers. And my mother's voice greeted me before I could even put my keys down. "There you are," she said, as if she'd been burdened by my absence. "Dinner's not ready. What were you doing all day?" What was I doing? I'd paid the $2,200 mortgage that morning. I'd sent off the utility bills. I'd even Venmo'd my brother $80 for his emergency groceries. And she had the nerve to ask me what I was doing? Still, I bit my tongue. I smiled. I pulled out leftovers and reheated them for everyone. Even after they complained about the taste, I smiled. Even after they left the dishes in the sink, I washed them. And when I dared, I mean truly dared, to ask if I could move my desk into the hallway just so I had a place to work again, my mother's response wasn't confusion. It wasn't apology. It was war. "If you don't like living with family," she barked, standing over me, "then leave." Not one person in the room said anything. My brother shrugged. His wife avoided my eyes. My father turned the TV up. So I nodded. And that night, I packed a pillow, a blanket, and my laptop, and I slept in the car. I was freezing by 4 a.m., but I didn't cry. I just stared at my ceiling. Well, the ceiling of the car I still made payments on, and whispered, "Okay." Because I wasn't sad anymore. I was done. Done giving, done begging, done being the silent backbone to a house that spat on my spine. At 5:17 a.m., I unlocked my phone, opened my banking app, scrolled to the transfer tab, and clicked one button. I didn't have to say a word. I didn't scream or slam the door. But that single transfer? It changed everything. And my mother, the one who thought her name still meant power in that house, she had just unknowingly signed her way out. You don't realize how deep the betrayal goes until you start counting. 11 months. That's how long they lived under my roof, rent-free, bill-free, consequence-free. And in all that time, not once did anyone say, "Thank you." Not once did my mother ask if I was okay working overtime just to keep the lights on. Not once did my brother hesitate before tossing another Amazon package on the porch like he'd paid for it himself. Not once did anyone even look around and realize the only reason that house kept breathing was me. And the sickest part? I let them. I handed them the oxygen mask while I choked on fumes. When they moved in, it was supposed to be temporary. Mom had sold her condo. My brother and his wife had been evicted. I thought, okay, we're family. Let's hold each other up. But holding them up turned into holding everything. I paid the $2,200 mortgage, $300 gas bill, $190 internet, $1,000 groceries, another $400 in random urgent needs, birthday cakes, baby formula, Uber rides, doctor copays. And every month, like clockwork, my mom would look at me across the kitchen table and say, "It's what families do." But what she really meant was, "It's what you do." And we take. The house I worked 10 years to buy had become a feeding trough. And I was the cow. I missed Zoom meetings because the kids were screaming in the background. I gave up my own bedroom twice when relatives visited from out of town. And when I caught the flu last winter, they locked the guest room and told me to sleep on the couch for everyone's safety. I slept next to a dog crate. I never complained. I told myself, it's just a season. It'll pass. But it didn't pass. It grew. My brother started treating the garage like his personal gym. Dumbbells, bench press, protein powders stacked next to baby diapers. My father turned the sunroom into a smoking den. And my office?
Gone.
Stripped. Repurposed as a toddler's nursery. My custom desk was sold to make space. No one even asked me. And every time I flinched, every time I hinted at needing space or quiet or dignity, my mother would say the same thing. We're your family. Act like it. The irony? I was acting like family, the kind that sacrifices, that holds it together, that shuts up and shows up. But they acted like I was the help. So that night, the night she screamed, it wasn't just about a room. It wasn't just about a desk or a bed. It was about the years they drained from me, the love they disguised as entitlement, the way they taught me that being needed was the same thing as being loved. It wasn't. That morning in the car, I didn't transfer money out of an account. I transferred ownership of the house, of the title, of the mortgage. Because 3 months ago, when I saw things weren't changing, I made a quiet move. I bought a second property.
Put it in my name.
Transferred the utilities. Transferred my business license. Transferred everything. And at 5:17 a.m., I completed the final step. I listed the house for sale. She screamed, "If you don't like living with family, then leave." She had no idea she was the one being evicted. By noon that same day, the for sale sign was up. A clean, white board with bold red letters, hammered straight into the lawn by the realtor I'd been quietly working with for 6 weeks. She even texted me a photo once it was done. The house looked so peaceful in that picture. If you didn't know better, you'd never guess that inside lived a hurricane of entitlement, noise, and guilt-tripping disguised as love.
I didn't walk through the front door that day.
I didn't need to. My car was still my safe space, my thinking room. And I had one more move to make. I waited until 3 p.m., right when my mother usually finished her rest, and my brother began his ritual of shirtless protein shakes in the backyard like he was in some TikTok fitness cult. Right when the toddler tantrums hit their peak. That's when I sent the group text.
Hey.
Since none of you asked when I'd be home, just a heads up, I won't be. The house is on the market. You have 30 days to vacate. Legal notices will follow. Questions can go through the agent. I stared at my screen, took a deep breath, and hit send. No emojis. No apology. Just facts. The reaction was nuclear. Within 30 seconds, my phone blew up with calls, texts, threats disguised as concern. My brother's message was first. "You're joking, right? Sam, this affects my kids." My mother's reply was longer. A wall of text that started with, "How dare you?" and ended with, "You're not even a real daughter." And that one I screenshotted. Not for revenge. Just for memory. I needed to remember that love, in our house, always came with conditions. They didn't call me when I was sick. They didn't help when I cried after losing a contract. They didn't say a word when I pawned my heirloom jewelry just to cover that $800 heating bill last December. But the minute I stood up, suddenly they cared. My dad didn't text. He sent me a voice note, something about humiliating the family and how daughters are supposed to build homes, not sell them out. I played it once, then deleted it. The truth was, I hadn't sold them out. I'd saved myself. That night, I stayed in a friend's guest room. She'd been asking me for months why I looked so tired, why I flinched at phone calls. I never told her the full story, but when I showed up at her door and asked, "Do you have space for one more tonight?" she opened the door without asking a single question. Sometimes strangers treat you better than blood. Meanwhile, the family group chat turned into a war zone. They begged, then threatened, then tried guilt. My brother asked if I could give them just one more month. My mother said she'd never forgive me. My dad said, "You think you're above us? You think that house makes you better?"
No.
I didn't think the house made me better. But I did think the people who lived in it should have at least respected the one who paid for it.
So I didn't reply.
I forwarded the text to my realtor and let her handle the storm. Because while they were busy yelling in a house that no longer belonged to them, I was already unlocking the door to my new one. With a deed in my name, peace in my lungs, and not a single mattress on the floor. They thought I was impulsive, that I'd just snapped overnight. but I didn't. What they never realized, what they never even bothered to ask, was how long I'd been planning my exit. It started small. I stopped leaving mail on the hallway table. I opened a private P.O. box for my personal business documents. I moved my LLC from the shared address to a virtual one downtown. And then one day, while picking up my dry cleaning, I saw a flyer taped to the window of a realtor's office. Feeling unappreciated in your own home? It read. I froze. Because yes, I was. That flyer stayed folded in my purse for 2 weeks. But when my brother's wife accidentally used my credit card to order a $300 blender, the kind with Bluetooth and presets, I called that realtor. Her name was Dana. And Dana didn't blink when I said, I want a way out, but I can't let my family know. Not yet. She leaned forward, smiled, and replied, then let's build the exit first. Quietly. And we did. We found a 2-bedroom loft near the river. High ceilings. Sunlight in the mornings. A small balcony. No screaming toddlers. No cigarette smoke. No one asking for just a little help with rent this month. Just me and silence. While they bickered over groceries, I was signing a second mortgage with my bonus check. While they turned my office into a nursery, I was furnishing a new one with real hardwood and a view. They thought I was always out with friends, but I was at Home Depot. They thought I was being standoffish, but I was building my own sanctuary. And I kept receipts, all of them. Every transfer I made from my business account to cover household emergencies. Every bill that was supposed to be split but ended up in my name alone. Every email from my mother saying things like, you're the stable one. You can handle more. I had them organized in folders. With dates. With proof. Because I knew eventually they'd try to twist it. They always did. So I came prepared. When my brother texted Dana and said, this isn't legal. We live here. She forwarded him the rental agreement. Blank. No signatures. No lease. Just a family freeloading on good faith. When my mother tried to call the bank and freeze the sale, they told her, ma'am, your name isn't on the title. She didn't even know that I'd refinanced 6 months ago, under my name only. She thought family meant power. She never imagined I'd outgrow the chains quietly. The night the official notice was served, she called me. She didn't yell this time. She whispered, you're throwing away your own blood, Samantha. I took a long breath, stepped onto my balcony, and said,
No.
I'm throwing away a house full of users who never once saw me as more than a wallet. She was quiet. Then she hung up. I sat in the dark for a while after that. No music. Just the distant sound of city lights. My inbox pinged with an email from Dana. An offer had come through. Above asking price. Cash buyer. I smiled. Because while they were screaming about betrayal, I was finally tasting freedom. And the best part? They still thought they had 30 days. But what they didn't know was that the buyer wanted the house vacant in 7 days. That's all they had left in the house they thought would always be theirs. And the clock was already ticking. I didn't warn them. I didn't walk in with a speech or a suitcase full of ultimatums.
No.
I let the silence work. Because silence, when you've been ignored for too long, becomes the loudest language. On day 1, my brother called me 17 times. By call number 6, he stopped pretending to be calm. This isn't fair. You can't just dump us on the street. He forgot I wasn't just dumping anyone. I'd been carrying them for almost a year. My mom texted next. A photo of my brother's kids sitting on the stairs, hugging a stuffed bear. The caption? Is this what you wanted? For them to suffer? That part stung. Not because it was true, but because she was using innocent faces to protect guilty ones. I didn't reply. Instead, I sent Dana the green light to proceed with buyer inspection. The next day, 2 agents and the buyer showed up to tour the house. My family acted confused, then indignant, then outraged. Why are these people here? My father asked Dana. She smiled calmly. This is a scheduled walkthrough. It's in the agreement. My mother looked like she'd swallowed vinegar. What agreement? Dana simply handed over a copy of the transfer documents, legally filed, signed, and stamped. I watched the whole thing from across the street, parked in my car, sipping coffee. A small act of theater. A front row seat to their unraveling. The buyer walked out smiling. He shook Dana's hand and said, 7 days. Just like we discussed. That night, I got another call. This time, it was my brother's wife. Her voice was trembling. Samantha, please. The kids, they don't understand what's happening. I could hear a baby crying in the background. Just give us 2 more weeks. That's all I'm asking. I almost caved, but then I remembered the blender. The one she ordered on my card and laughed about, saying, we'll just pretend it was a housewarming gift. That wasn't survival. That was entitlement. So I said, I'm sorry. I really am. But this house isn't your home anymore. And I'm not your safety net. She hung up without a word. Day 4, the packing began. Half-heartedly, angrily. They thought I'd change my mind. They thought guilt would save them. But guilt doesn't work on someone who's been emotionally bankrupt for 11 months. On day 5, they tried to stall the buyer. Claimed we have mold. The pipes leak. The roof has issues. The buyer's inspection crew debunked it in hours. Dana called me, laughing softly. Your family's running out of tricks. I wasn't laughing. I was grieving. Because this wasn't just revenge. It was mourning, the kind of pain you feel when you realize your family loved the version of you they could control, not the one who grew a spine. Day 6, the begging stopped. They packed in silence. My mother didn't text. My brother didn't call. My father finally turned off the TV. I guess they realized the locks weren't changing. But the power had. And by day 7, I was standing outside the house, watching movers load boxes into a truck. My brother walked past me once, didn't say a word. My mother followed behind him, clutching a ceramic angel that used to sit on our mantel. She stopped, glared at me. I hope you're proud. I looked her in the eye.
No, Mom.
I'm finally free. And I walked past her, straight into a house that was no longer mine, but never really theirs either. The house echoed, not with sound, with absence. No baby screams. No slamming bathroom doors. No passive-aggressive footsteps outside my bedroom. Just empty floors, half-peeled stickers on the fridge, and the faint smell of burnt toast they always left behind. They were gone. It should have felt triumphant, like a crown moment. But I stood in the center of the living room, staring at the dent in the wall where my brother once slammed the stroller, and all I felt was quiet. Not peace. Not yet. Just quiet. Dana stood beside me, clipboard in hand. Buyers are transferring final payment by 3 p.m. You ready? I nodded slowly. I've been ready, but my chest said otherwise. I walked through each room one last time. The nursery that used to be my office still had the faint outline of my old vision board under the peeled paint. The kitchen, missing 2 drawer handles and half a spice rack. I remember cooking 3 meals a day there while my mother sat watching soap operas, never once offering to help. The hallway, once covered in my framed degrees. She made me take them down. It feels like you're bragging, she said. And my bedroom. My little cave. The only space I had left at the end. I remembered the night I got my biggest client, the one that made everything possible. I came home beaming. My father asked, "How much did they pay you?" Not congratulations. Not I'm proud. Just money. That's all I ever was to them. A wallet with feelings. And when the wallet stopped working, they snapped. Downstairs, Dana was locking up. She glanced at me and said gently, "They signed the move-out verification. No damages claimed. No lawsuits pending. It's done, Sam." I took one final breath. Then so am I. We handed over the keys to the buyer at 4:15 p.m. He smiled, thanked me, and said, "This house has good bones." I almost laughed. It has good bones because I kept it standing. I walked away without looking back, got in my car, plugged in my new address, and drove. My new loft smelled like lavender and fresh paint. The windows overlooked a river. My desk, the one they sold without asking, had been replaced. Not with the same one, with a better one I built myself. And I sat in that chair, the soft leather still adjusting to my body, and finally cried. Not because I missed them, because I had grieved them already, long before they left. I cried because I finally had space to feel. And the silence? This time, it didn't feel empty. It felt like freedom. That night, I turned my phone back on. Missed calls, texts, voicemails. One from my mother. "If you're done with your tantrum, we're ready to talk. You embarrassed us, but we're family. We can work it out." I listened to the whole thing.
Didn't delete it.
I just saved it under a folder titled, "Never Again." Because what they call love isn't. Real love doesn't use silence as a weapon. Doesn't turn your generosity into debt. Doesn't punish you for growing. So, I turned off the lights, sipped my tea, and whispered to the night air. "You taught me to act like family." I finally did. I protected myself. 3 weeks later, I got a letter from my father. Handwritten. No return address. Just my name, in neat block letters, like I was some landlord collecting dues. Inside was a single page. The ink was smudged in places, not from tears, but from haste. "Samantha, we raised you better than this. You don't abandon your people. You think money makes you powerful, but you've lost your soul. Family is about sacrifice. Your mother cries every night. You may have sold the house, but you've lost your home. Dad." No apology. No reflection. Just shame gift-wrapped in his handwriting. I didn't cry. I didn't even get angry. Because it confirmed everything I'd known deep in my bones. They didn't want me. They wanted my usefulness. They dressed it up as love, as tradition, as doing your part. But the second I stopped giving, I became the villain in a story they wrote without me. I folded the letter neatly, placed it beside the photo I had framed on my new bookshelf, a younger version of me, holding the keys to that first house, smiling. That girl thought family would cheer when she built something. Instead, they moved in like termites. And when she finally stood up, they called it betrayal. I had nothing left to prove. But fate wasn't quite done. Because 2 weeks later, Dana called again. "You sitting down?" she asked. "I'm always sitting now," I joked. "It's kind of the point. Your buyer? He's flipping the house. Already has a new offer." I raised an eyebrow. "Okay, it's your old boss." Silence. "Elliot Kaufman, the CEO. He's moving in next month." Elliot Kaufman, the man who once said I was too soft-spoken to handle leadership, who refused my raise 3 years ago and told me, "Be grateful, you don't have kids or responsibilities like others." Now he was buying the house I held up with bruised hands and empty pockets. The poetic symmetry made me laugh out loud. I imagined him walking through the front door, still stained with crayon, sitting on the sofa my mom refused to vacuum, asking, "What's that smell?" and being told, "Baby formula and stale opinions." I didn't hate him. Not anymore. But it felt like the universe had a sense of humor. And I was finally in the audience, not the punchline. I thought about replying to my dad's letter. Thought about writing back. I didn't lose my home. I created one. And this time, no one's eating at my table unless they bring something too. But I didn't. Because they wouldn't understand. They didn't understand boundaries. Only obedience. They didn't understand growth. Only guilt. So I let them live with the silence. The same silence they gave me for years when I was drowning in bills, stress, and loneliness under the same roof they took for granted. And me? I planted a small herb garden on my balcony. Hung soft curtains that danced in the breeze. Adopted a cat named Ledger, because keeping receipts was my specialty now. I lit a candle that night, sat beside my vision board, a new one, and wrote down one final affirmation. Just because they call it home doesn't mean it was ever safe. The fire was mine now, and I wasn't using it to warm anyone else's cold heart ever again. A month after the sale, I got one last message from my mother. No greeting. No explanation. Just 5 words. "We're staying with Aunt Joyce." That was it. No, sorry. No, we were wrong. No, thank you for keeping us afloat when we had nothing. Just a logistical update. Like I was some distant landlord. A name on a document they no longer respected, but couldn't avoid. I stared at that message for a long time. And for the first time in over a year, maybe longer, I didn't feel anything. No rage. No grief. Not even relief. Just clarity. They never saw me. Not the version that bled for them quietly. Not the one that worked weekends and skipped vacations and made magic out of overdraft fees. To them, I was a function. A faucet that never ran dry. Until I did. And when I stopped pouring, they blamed the pipe. I remember once, when I was little, I dropped my ice cream cone on the pavement. I cried like the world ended. My mother knelt beside me, wiped my tears, and said, "Some things fall so better things can be held." Back then, I believed her. Now I realized, she only said that when her hands were full of something better. I sat in my loft that night, watching the city breathe beneath me. The moonlight poured through the glass, painting silver across my floor. Ledger, my cat, purred softly in my lap. The herb garden I planted had begun to bloom. Basil.
Mint.
A single tomato, vine climbing like it knew it belonged. I'd built something quiet, something sacred. And not once did I miss the chaos. My phone buzzed again, a forwarded email from Dana. The listing agent had closed a record deal on another house in the neighborhood. She wrote, "Looks like your sales set a new price ceiling. You changed the game." I smiled, not because of the money, but because I had changed something. I broke the cycle. I stopped performing love as servitude. Stopped mistaking shared blood for shared values. Stopped begging to be seen by people who only looked when they needed something.
And now?
Now I wrote stories again. Launched my small digital business, the one I put off for 2 years because family needed me more. I picked out furniture slowly, not based on sales, but on what felt like mine. I hosted 2 friends for dinner. We ate on the floor, laughing until midnight, drinking cheap wine from mugs. It was the best meal I'd had in years, because no one asked me to clean up alone. No one left early without saying thanks. No one guilt me for smiling too much. As I washed dishes that night, I whispered to the silence, "You're not empty anymore." Because this time, the quiet wasn't the sound of suppression. It was the sound of boundaries breathing, of dignity returning home, of a woman who once gave her soul to a house that took and took, now giving only what she chose. And in that silence, I heard the truth. I didn't lose my family. They lost me. And I gained myself.